Today's topic is, what do you consider to be the most pressing budgetary pressure facing sport organizations, and how are organizations responding to these pressures? With this discussion, I'm going to be talking about community recreation, specifically at the local government level. During some of our previous discussions, individuals have made posts related to COVID-19, and today's kind of going to be my turn to talk about that a little bit. Each and every one of us face some type of impact in our daily life as a result of the global pandemic. And truth be told, community recreation agencies were no different than the rest of us. They face consequences too. I had come across this article published by the Trust for Public Land from June 2020, just into the pandemic, and it talked about park budgets facing cuts as an economic fallout from COVID-19. And in truth, I came across a lot of these type of articles. A shocking stat that I had found was less than 6 weeks into the COVID-19 shutdown, nearly half of all park and recreation agencies had received requests to make cuts to their current fiscal year budget. And that cut amount, it ranged from 10% up to 19%, according to a survey from the National Rec and Park Association. So this first article I found mentioned a separate study conducted by the NRPA. And just to summarize those findings briefly from that survey, of 300 park commissioners, about half had already been asked to cut their budget for the current fiscal year by up to 20%, so that's a fifth. And one specific case referenced was out of Dallas, Texas, where the director of that park and recreation department was asked to trim his current fiscal year budget by 13%. I had found another article published just a few months later out of Minnesota that the St. Paul Parks and Recreation Department was also expecting budget cuts in 2021, and they were looking to cut over $1 million from their budget. All these agencies, they really found themselves on the chopping block from a financial standpoint. Overall, the tighter and tighter budgets present a significant challenge for community park and recreation agencies. I know one instance closer to me at home, there's a funding project that's been turned down in back-to-back years, and that could be the result of having a finite amount of financial resources for an infinite number of needs. There was a 4-year period where park spending dropped by over 20%, and there was a 2017 study of city leaders across all 50 states that found that local officials viewed park and recreation spending as discretionary and a luxury. So when it comes to the response, I think the Dallas director really had it right when he said that it's painful, but he also went on to say that he thinks that the department had strategically looked at ways to make sure that if they had to cut, that core services would be protected. Professionals are really having to go and plead their case and show people that parks and recreation play a critical role for the whole community. They're trying to convince people that those offerings are not just a nice to have luxury.